All right, so what we're gonna go over is basically the 5 basic secrets to wealth creation. Okay, so these are the 5 secrets you guys need to be successful. Once you follow these 5 principles, you can overcome. You can literally achieve anything in the world. And the first basic is who do you listen to? Fuck it. Who do you listen to? Okay, who do you listen to? The reason why you have to find somebody who you can listen to, because if you don't have somebody, the first thing you can, when you first came here, the first thing I asked you is who do you listen to? Because the person who you listen to every day on a daily basis is the person who influences you. So when you're listening to people, you have to make sure you're listening to somebody who have what you want. And this is information I learned from my mentor Kevin. So you have to listen to somebody who have what you want and been where you are. Because if you listen to somebody who have what you want and been where you are, they're going to show you the process they went through to get to where they're at. And once they show you that process they went through, you're going to be able to overcome all the roadblocks that they went through. So you don't want to be reinventing the wheel. You see, like Kenny. Kenny's like, hey, I'm trying to get to 100 grand a month. Shit, I'm about to go meet with Boney because he already did it. I'm not about to go fuck this shit up. I'm just about to go see the person who already did it. So he came down. Now he's doing it. If he try to go figure it himself, it's going to take him a long time. So you have to pay for shortcuts. Successful people pay for shortcuts. You have to find somebody who you can listen to. That's the first basic. Do you guys have any question about that basic? Nothing? So the second basic, secrets to wealth creation.
So how do you? So
Go ahead.
So how do you know you should? How do you know you should listen to the person outside of? What if it's somebody that like you have a really good relationship with, like a not for me, but it's in general. What if somebody's really close to their mother or their father or someone that they respect,
Mm-hmm.
and what they're telling them is contradicting what the result is seeking. What do you tell that person to do?
Repeat that.
So let's just say that I'm someone and I have someone who's really strong influence in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and what they're saying contradicts the person that I see someone who's successful,
Mm-hmm.
and that what they're saying contradicts what the person of influence is
Mm-hmm.
saying in my life. What does that person do?
So what you want to do, you have to listen to the person who have what you want.
Correct.
So you have to even it out. Who has what I want? And that's the person you need to listen to. Person have what you want. If you listen to the person who don't have what you want, you're wasting your time. You have to listen to that individual who have what you want. And most importantly, they have to bend where you are. Because just because they have what you want, like Donald Trump have what I want, but obviously Donald Trump hasn't been where I am. So I can't listen to his advice because he's not going to say, hey, Boniface, this is what you can do to be successful, because he never took in my path. So you have to listen to the person who took your path.
Got you. So that person that's of influence in that person's life, they basically need to be like, I don't give a shit about what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that.
Yeah. Like, you guys got to understand, like, this is big. Like, who do you listen to is big. Because, like, when you leave this place right now, there's people that you're going to run into that's going to give you advice. Like, you have to think like you have to have a high willingness to learn, high willingness to accept change. Because as soon as you leave from here, there's other people that are going to give you advice. And you're going to think their advice is amazing. But then after, you have to go back to that basic. Do this person have what I want? You have to go back to that basic, because if you don't know that basic, you just start listening to everybody else. Now you get sidetracked. Now you're doing something else. Now you're following somebody else, and you were supposed to do something else that you planned in. So that's the first basic, is who do you listen to? The second basic is your teachability index. It's your teachability index, okay? Your teachability index basically is your willingness to learn times your willingness to accept change. If your willingness to learn is a 10, but your willingness to accept change is 0, 10 times 0 is 0. You're never going to become rich. You're going to stay broke your whole life. Like I was telling Kenny the first time I met him, I was like, Kenny, this is how I always go back to my teachability index. I remember this guy, the first investment I ever made in myself was like $5,000. He was like, hey, come to Miami and I'm going to teach you. I was like 17 at the time. And I'm going to teach you how to run an online business. And I was like, oh, I'm going to that seminar. Then after he was like, it's $5,000. I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to go to that seminar because it's $5,000. But then after I started thinking to myself, like, man, I gotta have a high teachability index. What's my willingness to learn and what's my willingness to accept change? What's my willingness to give up time and money to invest in myself to get to where I want to go? So I went back to those basics and said, high willingness to learn, high willingness to accept change. And then I actually paid and went to that seminar. And it was history from there. So you have to be teachable. You have to be willing to learn, and you have to be willing to give up who you are now for who you could become. The number one thing that holds people back is because they don't want to transcend themselves. They don't want to become that new character that's capable of achieving anything. They're so tied up in where they're at now. So you have to be willing to give up who you are for who you could become. So that's your teachability index right there. You guys have any question about the teachability index?
So what if somebody, just playing devil's advocate here, what if somebody doesn't have, because you said it's 10, you said how willing to learn times how willing to accept change. So what if mine's is a 10, how willing to learn, and a 7, willingness to accept change. That's a 70. What does that person do?
What does that person do?
Yeah.
You have to increase your willingness to learn. You have to increase both of them.
So what is it? What is
Because it's like me saying, hey, I want to try something out. It's like me saying, hey, I want to try something out, but I don't want to get in too deep.
Right.
Do you think you're going to be successful? No. You just have to try it out and go in.
So if somebody is at a 70 teachability index, what should their focus be then? Should it be to get to a higher teachability index?
Yes, it's to get to a higher teachability index.
What would you suggest that teachability index is?
What would I suggest that the teachability, if they're willing to learn, is a 10, but their willingness to accept change at 7?
What does it need to be?
It needs to be 10 times 10.
So
It needs to be 100.
So what should that person focus on then?
That person's just, get it to 100. You guys have any other question? So that's your teachability index. So the third basic is training balance skill. Okay? So training balance skill.
Just to be clear, so if I'm not at 100, I need to focus on getting to 100.
If you're not at 100, it's fine. You just need to get started. If you're not at 100, it's fine. You just need to get started, but your goal is to get to 100. Because your goal is to get to 100 because it's like you trying to say, hey, I want to try something, but I don't want to be too in deep. Do you think if you're trying to try something, you don't want to be in too deep, and the person who's trying it and is deep into it, who do you think is going to be more successful? The person who's in it. So you have to get your teachability index higher. It's okay if it's 70. It's okay. At least you're willing to learn. That's the first basic. You know what I mean? That's the first step. Yeah, it's better than 0. Yeah. So the third basic is your training balance skill. Your training balance skill basically is 90% of your thinking and 10% of your action. Andrew Carnegie, right, was the richest man in the world. He wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. When he paid Napoleon Hill to write the book Think and Grow Rich. The first version was actually Law of Success in 16 Lessons. When he paid Napoleon Hill a 20-year commission to write the book The Law of Success in 16 Lessons, and they put that book on the market, they didn't entitle the book Work Hard and Grow Rich. They entitled the book Think and Grow Rich because it's all in your thinking. Every year, Andrew Carnegie would take 3 years out of his life, and Andrew Carnegie was the richest man in the world. He was worth $300 billion. So every year he would take 3 months and go to Scotland because he knew it was your thinking. So your thinking does it all. So once you can think it through, you can process it through your action. You don't want to work so hard. The people who work, you always see those people that don't get nothing done. But the people who are home and think about what they're doing, they get everything done. They get everything done, and they're more successful, and they're working less hours. So you have to think about what you're doing. Once you think it through, you can process it through your action. Don't work so hard. You work hard, you're going to stay in the same place. You guys have any question about the training balance skill?
Yeah, what are the top 3 things that you're consistently thinking about?
Who to listen to? I'm always on that. Like anywhere I go, there's people like, I'll be at Best Buy and somebody will be giving me advice or something. You know what I mean? Like I'll be at anywhere you go, you just have to go back to that basic because it's so crucial. Everybody want to give you advice. You're in an Uber, somebody want to give you advice on something, anywhere. So you have to go back to those basics. And you have to read books every day, listen to audios every day.
So could you break down, you said it's 90% of thinking and 10% of how. So could you break down what examples of thinking is and then what examples of how is?
So you're thinking, so the thinking, your thinking is basically your thinking is basically the how is the doing. You taking action and you actually applying that. Then your thinking is basically you reading books every day, you listen to audios every day, and that's your thinking.
What are your top 3 books?
The first book you need to read is The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. That's the #1 book. The Magic of Thinking Big. That's another one.
What is it?
Those are the basics books. The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. The Magic of Thinking Big. You can listen to Think and Grow Rich.
Magic of Thinking Big.
Yeah.
So
Or Rich Dad Poor Dad also.
So would my attitude be an example of thought?
Yeah. Your attitude is, yeah.
Would my desires be an example of thought?
Yes, your attitude and your desires will be the example of your thought.
Law of Success and
16 lessons. So like there's no good, what Kenny is trying to say is that, because I had Kenny listen to some of my materials, and what Kenny is trying to say is basically like, there's no good or bad situation, okay? So there's only events. There's only events. So when you go through life and you experience something bad, you identify what you do want, because now you identify what you hate. So what Kenny is trying to say is that, what's the mental part of this stuff? Because he went through the program and stuff like that, so he understands it a lot more than you guys, but I'm just trying to keep on the basic playing field.
So Think and Grow Rich, Law of Success in 16 Lessons, and Magic of Thinking Big.
Read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yeah. And if you guys go on my Instagram too, I put a list of books there too that you guys can read. You guys can read those books.
And what about audio?
So if you go on my YouTube channel, I have a lot of audios there, and you can just listen to those audios on my YouTube channel. At Boniface Ogunti. Boniface. Ogun. Yeah, Ogunti. Ogunti.
So what's number 4?
The 4th basics.
I'm not done.
Yeah, Ogunti.
You asked a whole question for 30 minutes. And you want to refresh.
Yeah, so the 4th basic is the way you process information, okay? The 4 steps to processing information. So there's 4 steps that you're going to go through when you're learning new information, guys. And the first step is unconscious incompetence. So a lot of people, I got a lot of students. I probably have over probably 500 students through my program. So what I tell all my students is that when you're learning information, you're going to go through different phases. The first phase that you're going to go through as you watch my information that I'm showing you is unconscious incompetent. Unconscious incompetent means that you don't even know the information I'm teaching you existed before you even came about it. So you was unconscious incompetent about it. So you didn't even know it exists. Then as you go through my program, you become conscious incompetent. Now you know it exists, but you just don't know how to do it. Then as you start actually doing it, you start actually applying it, you become conscious competent.
What was number 2 again? Just for the record. You said number 1, not to be accidental.
Of the 5 basics?
No, of this.
Ability index. No, of this. He only said the first one.
So the first one of the 4 steps to process information is unconscious incompetent.
Right.
Then it's conscious, then it's unconscious competent. Unconscious competent means that you know it exists, you just don't know how to do it. Yeah, unconscious competent don't even know this stuff exists, but which is fine because we all didn't know stuff existed before we did it until we learned it. So as we start learning it, because there's a lot of the reason why you guys don't know these basics is because you always want to keep learning. It's like you don't know what you don't know. If you stop learning, like every day I'm watching program. He came in my room today, I was watching a program because I don't know what I don't know. Like I can be like, man, I don't need to watch a program. I don't need to learn nothing. I'm always consistently watching programs day in and day out because you have to understand that everybody thinks differently. Like the reason why I really got into this entrepreneurship stuff was because I started thinking like, how does this guy thinks? When I started driving down the road, I used to see other people driving like, where is this guy going? How does this guy, where the hell is this guy going? And that made me have to go through our life. Everybody thinks differently. Your goal is to be able to acquire wisdom from everybody else. As you acquire those wisdom, you're going to grow as an individual. So you don't know what you don't know.
What's number 3?
So number 3 of the four way you process information is conscious competent. Conscious competent means you know it exists and you know how to do it. You know it exists and you know how to do it and you're actually applying it in your life. So as the students who come through my program, they start getting massive results. They become conscious competent. They start killing it. Then as they do it for over a year, they become like over 2-3 years and they're so good at what they're doing, they're consistent with it, they become unconscious competent. Unconscious competent means you know how to do it and you're just doing it on autopilot. It's like that stage, like we're not even at that stage right now. Everybody in this room here is going to take us years and years to come because we're still growing. You don't know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying? We're still growing. We're all here still growing. So at that stage, I don't even think I'm ever going to reach that stage. That's how curious I am to learn. So that's how you guys have to be. You have to be willing to invest in yourself because if you're not willing to invest in yourself, other people aren't going to be willing to invest in you. Business is like a mirror. Whatever you put out is what you get. So that's the 4 way you process information, guys. That's the 4 way you process information. The 4th, unconscious and competent, unconscious and competent, unconscious and competent, conscious and competent, conscious competent, and unconscious competent. You have to realize, you have to know that because there's so much people that start stuff and they're like, oh my God, it's so confusing. Of course it's confusing when you first start. Of course it's confusing when you first start, but as you start actually looking at it and observing it, it's like, wow, this stuff is not that hard. You get what I'm saying? So when you guys start learning this stuff, especially you guys right now with our age group here, you guys need to be on the computers because this is where the money is at. It's not you sitting in the shop. That's not where the money is at. I can launch a 6-figure business in 30 minutes. Real stuff. I can launch a 6-figure business in under 30 minutes.
Say that again.
I can launch a 6-figure business in under 30 minutes, but that's how you guys have to know. That's how you guys have to know this stuff. Like Kenny came to my house. He was like, damn. You can literally get broke and just turn this shit back on. I was like, yes, that's how powerful the internet is. There's billions upon billions of people on the internet.